Seems like you can't go very far on the modern day FF1600 schedule without throwing a rock and landing in America, but I have been looking forward to seeing this track for quite some time. It's Sebring International Raceway for the FF1600 SOF Round 2. Howie Bowes has ridden Ron Mons as ever, joining you on the cast, and Ron, as an American on the call, you're one of those that's going to have to glaze this track the whole way down, but I won't criticise you for it at all. It is great.
Oh, Sebring is absolutely wonderful. This track was the first host of a Formula One United States Grand Prix, not the first host of a Grand Prix race in America. The Indy 500 was a part of the calendar, this, that, and the third. But I adore this track. It's mainly known for sports cars, but open-wheel cars can put on a pretty good show here as well. And a pretty darn good race a couple of weeks ago, just yesterday with the Weekend Warriors, and really looking forward to what this second week race has on store. Have a pretty high strength of field at about 3,400 I rating as the average, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this race may have in store.
It was a high SOF when I worked out to join the correct time split, let me put it like that. This is a very interesting track for these cars. We've actually seen quite a lot of contact throughout the week, as most of it is pretty technical. You only really get one long straight here down the back before you enter Sunset, which is a hard enough corner when you're driving a car that doesn't slip around all over the place. This place has tricky curves. It's got, look at how long the straight is going to go. And then look at how much Sunset just opens up the whole way around. If we get back on the nose, you sort of see that almost everybody has a different interpretation of how to take it. Midway through qualifying, drivers just about to set their first laps on the book. So let's get those fastest laps up and take a look at what people are achieving right now. Packed house as ever. For some reason, I thought it was going to go single split because I joined the wrong one. That's what we call a mistake. Okay, they happen in the business sometimes. One day the overlay.
Yeah, there's a joke that popped into my head, but I wasn't going to say it.
You go ahead. Don't be worried.
I'm going to preface this knowing fully well that my dad and my best friend who are watching this broadcast in the living room downstairs are probably going to smack the crap at me for saying this. Mistakes happen, much like my conception. Anyways, we got a good race to look forward to here today. It
was going to be self-deprecation again. It was going to be Ron's self-deprecation. That's all we were going to get. Because that's all he's got. But that's okay.
I'm laughing because crying would be sad. No, but we're in for a darn good race here today in this qualifying session. Gonna be a rather tough one for these competitors as well. Just trying to get those clean lap times in is gonna be a rather tough ask.
Yeah, and it's quite a long lap as well. We're 4 minutes in, and your eyes don't deceive you. No one's actually made it around the track twice. So I actually don't even know. There's probably time to do a second, but this is a very, very, very long lap. Plenty of familiar names and a few new ones as well. Here's Nemanja I practiced this before the race. And now I'm disappointed at myself. It's Nemanja Radvanovic. That was it. I remember trying to get this right. I think he's won the furthest through the track. In fact, most people are going to finish quite the same time, actually. It's probably going to be Graham Rory Hunt across the line first, but it's going to be an absolute flood of cars hitting all at once. So prepare yourselves for a deluge of times. And I don't know how well drivers here are going to be able to get their second lap done, because you've seen how long it's taken them to get 1.5 times around. Let's find out quite who's on top the first time and whether there will be time, because it's a 2 minute 17 keeper in the ballpark of, and Timothy Parker Russell is the first to make it. Lado Brown in second. Fraser Smith jumps the rest. Kieran Shanks a 16.5 should put him on top. Renton Brookman a 17.0, not quite good enough. Frederick Surley, who I need to thank as ever for him being season sponsor with FILMBIL.NO, is coming quite late around the track. Same with Jason Chen is just going to make it last the line before him, and Murray Adams. Richard Spencer is some distance off the back of the field. Here comes Surley. A 19.1 is certainly not in the ballpark of good enough. We're going to have to go back around. Long laps, and not a huge amount to talk about. Let's get our number 1 car on board, though, and keep an eye on some of the bumps, thrills, and spills of the circuit. there's a lot of bumps all over the place, and these car tyres don't take to them terribly well. Talk about the reactive curbs on top as well. Are you good on your production feed now? I didn't see any problem on my end.
Yeah, I have now officially been gifted with sight. Thank you very much, Howie, for the hard work behind the scenes. Now that I've done a decent amount of production stuff myself, I can say that producing is a titanic pain to the anus. So well done to gang that up on the fly. But as we look at Kieran Shanks running around this track, you brought up a good point in reference to the 3D curbs. This was one of the first tracks that added in the 3D curbs on the iRacing platform, and saw this in the Weekend Warriors. We actually saw it last week as well in this race at Okayama. The 3D curbs can be a little bit treacherous for these drivers. I'm not sure whether or not the curbs have just been, I don't know, coated. I mean, I would say olive oil. It's coconut oil in this case, since we're down in middle Florida. So I'm not sure what exactly the deal is, but as soon as these racers hit the curbs coming out of these turns, if they're trying to squeeze on that throttle pedal a little bit, they're just going to loop it around like a top. So frankly, these racers going to have a lot of worries on their hands. The curbs certainly one of them. And off through turn number 15 that we saw Kieran Shanks head through about probably 25 seconds ago. Very tough. The final turn, Sunset Bend, going to be very important to nail down as well. So you see him come across the line to set another lap time, dealing with the bumps on the bottom half of this circuit. Improves to a 1:16.148. So that's enough to hold on to that provisional pole position as it stands for now. But with only about 30 seconds left to go on the clock here, these racers running out of time, running out of opportunities, and really, it's a tough pill to swallow if you start a little bit farther at the back, especially if you start in the midfield here at Sebring. If there's any turn from the entirety of this calendar that I would not want to be running in the midfield for, it probably would be turn 1 at Sebring, because that turn, there is so many things that in these rather sketchy cars you have to deal with through there that frankly all you want to have to worry about is just making it through on your own, let alone worrying about cars around you.
That marks every car across the line. Had to make sure my overlay was perfectly restarted in time, because apparently today appears to be cursing me in new and unique ways. Let's see how quickly I can jump through this starting grid for the race. Kieran Shanks lines up in P1 next to Fraser Smith. A Taylor's oldest time, one would say. James Pecker's on field in the second row next to Rance Brookman in fourth. On the third row, TMP Parker Russell is next to Frederick Surley. And Ian Anderson in the 10 car next to Graham Rory Hunt in the 8th. Here, the only blue car of its kind on the track today. Jason Chen's in 9th. Nato Brown is in 10th, and there's a few more behind.
Yeah, looking through, we got Edward Buchanan starting this race in P11. Richard Spencer starting in P12. Looking right behind on your 7th row, we have got Nathaniel Bell alongside Chus Fernandez. And then right behind in P15 and P16 will be Jacob Moroz alongside Nemanja Randovan. We tested this already. We'll get that name pronunciation right come time for the end of Season 2 of 2028. Murray Adams going to start this race in P17 along Tobias Henriksen, rounding out your 9th row with Jason Dembski rounding out your 19 car starting grid for this race. I deeply apologize for some of the butchered name pronunciations throughout all that. Hey, we're professionals, and sometimes we have to break out that can of WD-40 so the pronunciations can come out right.
Will they ever for me? I feel like it's a curse that just follows me around every day from track to track. So this is you've talked about it being a difficult turn 1 already. We have drivers that are going to possibly find each other, they're going to have to get used to getting very close to each other on this front row. We're green here at Sebring. It's a good launch from Kieran Shanks down behind. Fraser Smith less fast on the go. There's room to gradually go 3 wide. Kieran right up to the wall. Leading this pack is probably the best place to be right now as the cars file on through. James Packer looks like he's gotten the best of the rest of them. And in fact, Fraser's dropped back quite a fair bit as he tangles with Rance Brookman through the next turn. It's a fully clean turn 1 at Sebring. Look at them go. Not going to be too much of a drafting strategy race, I think. Oh, we do have contact here. So Richard Spencer and Murray Adams both going a little bit sideways on the way out and back. And our race continues with mostly everyone in one piece.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Murray Adams and Richard Spencer. They were clean off through turn number 1. They were not clean through turn number 3. That is the biggest choke point at the start of these races. And unfortunately, the two of them getting collected in a collision. We need to load up a replay soon to see exactly what happened there, as we've still got side-by-side racing going on a little bit farther in the back. Jason Chen in the midst of a battle with himself. I believe that's Nato Brown that he's battling with. That's for P9 at the moment, as we have a move here from Frederick Surley. He's trying to get past Timothy Parker Russell, and he gets that move done, the number 6 car, to jump his way up from P6 into P5.
Leader not really able to run away here, but this front pack was able to make some separation. Originally it was with Russell and Surley. Now the gap opens up behind Brookman. A little bit of a slip up from that 7. Graham Rory Hunt having a slow exit in the background. And Pekka and Shanks are going to be running 1-2 with a rival right behind, and this long straight is going to signal about how well our evening is going to go here together. Big runs are going to happen down here. You can't really hold them off forever, but it's also not quite a drag race to the line because that final turn is tricky. Pekka and Smith are in line there. That's Jacob Mroz in the background with a small incident. Pekka tries to move across. Shanks takes the left-hand line to open up that turn as well. Renz Brookman is still in tow, but Frederick Surley's lost a whole second already. Not the legendary run I was expecting for some drivers, but some of the left-right movement makes that tricky. We're expecting only 9 laps around here, so that's your first in the books, and they're going to fly on by.
And speaking of racers having a good start, Rando Nemovic in the number 11 car was able to jump their way up into P13 all the way through that first lap. Very nicely played from them. I definitely didn't just mention that so I can try and redeem myself after the failed pronunciation during the starting grid. But no, we have got ourselves a good race to look forward to here, as Alex James Becker running a little bit wide heading at turn number 5. That 3, 4, and 5 section is just a relentless assault on these racers. You got one turn, then another, slamming into the bumps, slamming into the curbs as well. But it is a very important section to try and nail down. You can really make hay while the sun is shining off through that part of the racetrack too. Make a good run through there, and you can come out and smell like a bed of roses. If you have a bad run through there, though, you may end up spinning out. You could very well find yourself ending up on the wall. And wheel-to-wheel contact and car-to-car contact, very much so a real possibility, even at this point of the race, with the field spread out a little bit more than they were 1 lap ago.
The hairpin that is affectionately called hairpin, because some people come up with great names to call us and others are like, that's a hairpin, is going to be, I think, a particularly high-pressure dive bomb spot later on in this race. I love it. One of my sick fascinations, other than the fact that losing all my SR at IMSA here every time it comes, it is dive bombing people in GT3s into that turn. Obviously these cars can't quite door bang, but that hasn't stopped many people from making dramatic moves, and I think if you're desperate to try and send it and make it happen, you might consider a move like that later in the race. Here's the roll bar of Fraser Smith. He's staying out of line from the 2 cars ahead. They are basically pushing each other down the straight there. But now James Becker moves out to the side and gets covered off again. I think they are both playing a game of pushing down the straight a little. It's not going to help you run the whole way away, but it might make a little bit of a difference when you matters in the last few laps. And unless Renz Brookman sort of wants to get in behind Fraser Smith and do the same thing and do 2 rows of it, you're going to be at a disadvantage if that isn't quite happening. Kieran Shanks gets the fastest lap this time around, probably helped by some of that. There's plenty of opportunity for Fraser to get involved in some of that as well. Is Ian Anderson and Jason Chen. Jason Chen in the crash test dummy car, but he is often able to keep it in one piece. And I believe we've spoken with the top 3, or maybe I'm getting confused with Castro. Either way, alongside Anderson. Lots of space. Some portions of this track you can go 4 wide. I've seen images of it. They're still tangling, but I think Jason Chen's got the better of it for now.
And we have gotten the opportunity to speak with Jason Chen in the past on these broadcasts, a past Weekend Warriors champion, actually the reigning Spec 2 champion over on that side of things. Very talented in these FF1600 cars and looking to prove that right away as he goes for a move on Ian Anderson down to the hairpin, gets it done. Fun little fact about that hairpin, the runoff area on that outside actually used to be the old configuration of that part of the track, but still just racy enough to give Jason Chen the opportunity to get past, but he has still got a long flat-out blast down here into Cunningham Bend of turn number 10. Anderson looking to try and sweep around the outside. Jason Chen not able to make it work as he's still feeling some pressure right behind from Edward Buchanan in the 5. We jump back to this battling, though, up at the front. These 4 cars have broken away from just about everybody else. P5 of Timothy Parker Russell running effectively in no man's land as it stands currently. The driver of the number 8 car will be feeling rather lonely at the present moment running here at Sebring. The front 4 off their own little battle. There's a battle going on right behind between Frederick Sorley and Graham Rory Hunt. Those cars cover by about a half a second as they head their way off through turn number 15. I think there's only a smattering of racers all around this racetrack that find themselves in a bit of calmness, and Timothy Parker Russell is one of them, which I'm not sure whether that's a good fate or this one is, as we see those racers yet again bump draft. That's such a dangerous game to try and play. Trying to bump draft in an FF1600 car is basically giving somebody a dozen eggs and telling them they have 12 opportunities to hit all of them with a hammer and try not to break any of them.
Another driver that was losing touch was Renz Brookman. He seems to be back in range. That last lap was pretty poor for him. Down the straight, Ian Anderson was able to take Jason Chen again. And Edward Buchanan, a name that I used to, for some reason, get wrong like it was a religion, even though I know of other Buchanans, is joining that battle and making it a 3-car chase. Fastest lap, actually, Graham Rory Hunt. Though after all that, no pushing assistance needed, stayed in the draft of Frederick Surley and got plenty of speed down that straight. This is really where the most dynamic action is, but I'm going to have to keep an eye up front, of course, to see whether something pivotal could determine this race. We're not even halfway, so people aren't sending their everything right now. They're definitely sizing each other up, and they definitely don't want to take big risks. A race where all 3 of these drivers finish in the top 3, I think, would give them all a breath of relief. I think there's been enough building up in the system that maybe we want a day where nobody's angry. We're doing a good job of it so far, but the gloves might come out as the race approaches its zenith. Renz Brookman just about in touch, but you can see that gap. It does seem to spread out. He reached 6/10 last lap, then after sunset he gained all that time back.
I think the biggest trouble spot for these racers was probably heading down that Ullman straightaway off into Sunset Bend of turn number 17, the final turn around this racetrack. That bump drift game that Shanks and Becker are choosing to play, I said it just a matter of 1 lap ago, and I'll say it once again, that is rather outrageous. I mean, if you're bump drafting in a car with closed off wheels, has fully formed bumpers, that's okay. Even in other open wheel cars, I mean, you're going to damage either the diffuser of the car right in front of you or damage your nose. That's fine, because there's a slight amount of puzzling that can go on there. It's not like a jigsaw trying to put a FF1600 car together front to back. It's just not going to work. It's like trying to put 2 diamond-shaped little paper cutout things together and make sure that they don't stick. That's basically what we've got going on right now. There's not a lot of wiggle room for these racers playing that bump drafting game. I am gobsmacked. The fact that it hasn't resulted in a collision heading down that back straightaway. They are absolutely playing with fire, but they're still going for some moves. Not really successful moves, mind you, but they are still shuffling heading down these straightaways. And speaking of some moves, 3 wide racing right behind. That's Jason Chen, Edward Buchanan, and Ian Anderson on the inside, sliding his way up into P8, but still not over.
You send it that deep into turn 1 at Sebring, you often lose momentum on the way out, and that's what Ian Anderson found. He thought he had killer momentum coming in, and turns out it just doesn't really translate into exit pace halfway through the race time now. These 3 are certainly trading their positions by far the most. Every time I see a gap come down to 1/10 there, I just have to check that no one's car's exploded on the spot, because deep down my eyes are over here. Also another one, Jason Dembski and Nathaniel Bell here, very, very close side by side. Bit of a cut over there by Jason Dembski. And hopefully that car remains in one piece on the other side. It does, but that little blip's going to cause him not to make the move going in. Probably better for everybody's safety around here, as it's been a remarkably clean one on the track so far. Although I can see that people aren't getting on in the YouTube chat anyway, and I suggest you'll turn it down just a little bit. Turn it down just a little bit, because you might need that energy at one point later today, and you're going to want it then.
Hey, it wouldn't be one of these broadcasts if we didn't have some sort of beef. We've had beef out there on the racetrack. We've had beef in the YouTube chat. I mean, I'm going to say this, Howie. I feel like this series is going to draw us to have some sort of falling out on the air. So we'll have to pick some sort of petty argument to have come time for next week's race.
Well, for that, you'll have to stop being so reliable. So, you know, you have to stop with all of that. These two certainly have a strategy that's going to work it out, which is why I've been looking quite a bit back. Here's Rory Hunt, Parker Russell, and I think these three might play the game again. Look at the three different lines here as we enter sunset. Jason Chen pinned to the inside. Ian Anderson's got a very, very good run. Is he going to try the same strategy again into turn one? Because it didn't really work to its best that time. Frederick Surley's the fastest. Jason Chen gets in and alongside the pack. I wonder if Nato Brown's going to become a part of that. One outside, one inside. Oh, a little bit of contact there for Anderson, and that's going to send him back and around. They've been racing very, very well. I think that's more likely to be a racing incident going into a tough corner, because that was a joy to watch, but we lost one in the process.
I gotta say, Ian Anderson, every single time he headed his way off into either turn number 17, the final turn, or turn 1, the first corner. There we go, shocker information, I know. But every single time I saw him heading off into those turns, you could just see that car darting around. The back end would hop out, then the front would respond, then the back end would hop out, then the front would respond. He was dancing around the track, ice skating, if you would, and there's only so much of that you can do here in these cars before the car's gonna say, hey, you know what, I'm good. I don't want the tires to be worn down to the canvas. I'm just gonna spin you around to let you know that you can't really do that in these race cars. That's very unfortunate, though, for Ian Anderson. Was putting together a really good race. He's still running right behind Jason Chen. The only bad news is that gap has gone down from 0.39 of a second to 3.9 seconds.
It's an open setup series, of course, and you sort of can optimize yourself a little bit for each track. This isn't a car with endless parameters, and a lot of drivers have sort of set up their own in order to adjust to the way they drive the car, and then they make small adjustments just to get the car around the turns better. So some drivers love a really aggressive set that they can just wheel and send very, very hard, whereas others prefer something a bit glued to the ground. Brown and Chen are still racing. Frederick Surley has a meatball flag and is in the tyre barriers. So that sounds like the average curse we sometimes bring upon this man. I will catch a replay of how that one happened, because he's been sent all the way to the back after that. I want to keep an eye if something was developing on this back straight. I think the strategies are changing just a little bit for these drivers, but they're all still sort of keeping to themselves, and they're all not doing outrageous moves. Now let's see how much trouble I get in and what I missed for catching what happened to Frederick Surley here.
Let's see what could have happened to him. Oh, off through turn 15 and bang, into the wall he's gonna go. I mentioned that curb right towards the top end of the show. I'm not sure what sort of demons are baked inside of that concrete that makes up that outside curb, but even if you look at the wrong way, whoop, around you're gonna go. You're gonna spin like a top, hit the wall, and turn your car into an unrecognizable clump of metal. Unfortunate there for Frederick Surley. Not the first time I've seen a moment like that. Certainly will not be the last. I need to keep a tally of the amount of drivers that I've seen it spin after hitting that curb. I've even been the victim of a driver hopping that curb. I remember doing a Radical SR10 official race about a year and a half ago. I was going side by side with someone down into that Le Mans section about midway through that race. A driver that I went for a move on, just overshot the turn, hit the curb, and then just slid and then just bounced right into the side of me. That section, we talk about choke points around this racetrack. I mentioned the turn 3, 4, and 5 section a little bit earlier on in this broadcast. Turn 15, That is brutal, and that is frankly an uncomfortable section of racetrack. Doesn't matter what kind of car you're in. Could be an FF1600, could be a GTP, could be an SR10. You could probably find yourself being very uncomfortable around that part of the track in just about any race car around here. Actually, in fact, if anybody has gone through that part of the racetrack consistently and has felt comfortable in doing so, I would love to hear that story, because I don't think there's a single racer who's gone through that section of racetrack without feeling ever so slightly terrified.
I often just realize I'm not going to get it and then just go over and I take the slowdown, because at least it's not an off track. Thought I'd chat out while we're still here that we had quite the season for these cars, both in the real world and in the virtual. It's the season of the Formula Ford Festival. I visit in person. And not just as a business expense either, but because seeing these things in real life for the first person was a little bit of a reality-bending moment. Fraser Smith has the run on James Pecker, and just like that, he's just straight up been given the second position. Not quite much momentum on the way out, though. Side by side now, as the inside. Try not to bang your wheels too hard. That's a position well claimed after waiting 15 minutes down there in the back. Anyway, on top of that, the iRacing Festival, of course, I believe we're looking to broadcast one of those Formula Ford Festival splits. We're looking at the 31st of October at 8 p.m. GMT. The time zone will swap over mid-season, and we will stay on 8 p.m. UK time when that happens. Sorry to reveal that one to you, Ron. If that's impossible, we'll find a way. We'll find a way, okay? Tim Parker Russell and Graham Rory have just behind as well, going side by side, which is what we did in the past. So that's how we're going to do things. The race is kicking off up front as Fraser Smith now looking to take one out of Kieran Shanks. I think he's getting a little bit of help from James, but it's not quite going to be enough. Help to the outside, little bit on the grass, but he's kept it together. Oh, this is getting aggressive between the two. One more thing I need to say about the schedule, by the way. Okayama next week. Good track, plenty of fun. Bit of a classic. Fraser Smith gives up time on exit here and is now going to let Pecker through, but he's fast, he's got to run, and bad things happen into these few corners. I've seen it not just between one car today, but between multiple later down the line. He's faster. He's going to take that pass up the inside. Keeps it clean through the curbs, and the run down the straight is going to be fascinating. Whereas Brookman isn't totally at this as well, although he's mostly been chilling in the back. Now, how's James going to react when there's a car that isn't quite a teammate ahead? The answer is going to be running right up to the wall. I'm not sure that's going to give you an optimal line through Sunset. Fraser Smith's going to assert the outside. Kieran
he'll
can't
go for
quite
it.
do it. Very wide one from Fraser Smith, though. There's nothing in iRacing that says you can't pass beyond those yellow lines, even though it's deeply unintuitive. We return back where we started, unfortunately, but this battle is getting spicy, and I need to check whether we see a white flag. We do see a white flag. Now, Rens Brookman wants to go wide. This commentary in my other ear, it's fantastic as we go. Fraser Smith, very, very close with James Pecker. This is going to be a battle for the entire lap, all the way to the end, I think. Pecker's going to need to make a few desperate moves to get back up into P2, but Kieran Shanks has led every lap of this race so far. Can he do the last?
Yeah, no, the pressure has really been ramping up over the past few moments. That racing was so frenetic at the end of the last lap and the start of this one that we're on right now. I think these racers are going to have to risk it. Look at Fraser Smith around the outside of Kieran Shanks. They're side by side as they head their way down the hairpin. They make contact. Fraser Smith going to get sideways. He goes into the side of Becker, and look at Rens Brookman. Going to sweep around the outside, get the 2-for-1 deal. Fraser Smith now going to try and close off the gap from Becker. He holds on to P2 for now, but here comes Rens Brookman. He looks on the outside of Kieran Shanks. Oh, they bump and bang down to the turn. That's going to be hair-raising. Oh, no!
And that's going to send the two of them down back. That's Shanks and Brookman wrecked and sent back, and that leaves only two cars to run down to the finish, and it's going to be Fraser Smith leading the pack unless Pecker has something unbelievable. Oh, that close. The two cars are in one piece. They are moving, but it's 6th and 7th for them on the road. That's the sort of close physical racing that you're going to get around that sector of Sebring. I mean, we will watch a replay. I'm not too sure how there was much malice. I'm not too sure if that was just cars very desperate, tangling over each other on a very slow part of the track. It does happen. Pekka has one last chance at a run here. Fraser's going to do everything to break up this toe, but one mistake into this turn is going to cause problems. It's a bit of a bump from behind. Pekka has the outside. And I think he might just hold off Pekka in time. And I think for Fraser, a win here has been a very, very, very long time coming. But he does finally have it, no matter how it happens here at Sebring.
Oh, and that is going to be a very unpopular win with two specific people. Kieran Shanks and Renz Brookman, frankly, were innocent bystanders there. Fraser Smith, I think he turned up that wick of aggression a little bit too high as we got to the end. That contact down to turn number 10 of Cunningham. Just really, really aggressive stuff at the end of this race. We'll take a look at some replays, kind of relive the drama that decided the fate of this race. You can see Smith was already a little bit irked after the moment with himself and Shanks down to the hairpin. Makes contact. He did get chased into the braking zone a little bit by James Becker, but that contact down to the turn sent Shanks into the path of Brookman. As soon as I saw that contact being made, I knew immediately that Fraser Smith was going to be able to jump into the race lead because I knew right away that Kieran Shanks wasn't able to hold on to that race car. Any sort of bumper to bumper, nose cone to gearbox contact here in these FF1600 cars. That's too much of a touch. And that it really just doomed the both of them, frankly. Fraser Smith got to walk away with a W, but I don't think many people are going to be very happy about it.
I mean, you'll get an argument from the two of them. I'm not in one of these cars, and I'm not driving it, but you'll get the argument from one that they were rear-ended, and you'll get the argument from the other that the other car overslowed and was sort of anticipating it. That's what you'll hear from the two of them either side. I'm not in one of those cars, so... You know, I don't know these closing speeds. I don't know what that's going to take. But that's how it's going to look for the two of them. And they're both going to sit very strongly on their side of it. And we'll probably go around in circles and go nowhere. But it makes for an official end of race. Well, actually, we'll pick up one or two more on board before we get to the interviews as well. There are some requests to see someone. We'll get there. But Fraser Smith wins out that race. James Pecker's in second. Graham Rory Hunt inherits third after the wreck with Timothy Parker. Russell inheriting fourth. Kieran Shanks lines up fifth ahead of Renz Brookman, Edward Buchanan, Jason Chen, Dana Brown, and Ian Anderson. Further back, a few more cars.
And just looking through the rest of the field, we got Richard Spencer in P11, Tobias Henriksen in at P number 12, Nathaniel Belclis in P13, Murray Adams in 14th. It's going to be Nemanja Radovenikov. I had it right earlier. I apologize. It's going to be the driver of the number 11 car finishing this race in P15. Chus Fernandez in 16th. Frederick Sorley in P17. Jason Dembski in P18. Jacob Moroz was the one of the only retirees from this race, class down in P19. So those are your results at the end of this race. I think we have some more replays to take a look at here of well, it was a very hectic final lap, it must be said.
I'll get a good angle of everybody's car and we'll just see quite what happened. That's Kieran Shanks is running through the turn. We've seen Fraser Smith, but I'll just put them all in one place. As I said, I know what the two arguments are going to be, and I'm not driving one of these cars ultimately. So, you know, that's going to explode, and I don't know if I'm a good enough FF1600 driver to know what looks like too fast and what looks like too slow. So we're just gonna, I'll just leave it at that. Here's James Pecker's view though, the two drivers that weren't involved here. I think the only driver who's gonna be like aggrieved and we can say like we're objectively sorry for is Renz Brookman, holding that left-hand line and then just not being able to finish.
The one time that Renz pounces in this entire race is when that happens. If we're going to be as objective as possible here, because frankly, I don't think either of us want to get involved in all the bull crap that's going to go on in the arguments after that incident. But I think it's objectively fair to say that Renz Brookman got screwed.
I mean, he was very patient for that one to happen, but he is near the beehive. I'll say that he is definitely he's definitely near the hive of other cars. A few other things that happened. There's maybe no one will want to talk to us, and if that happens, then that I understand. We'll just leave it at that. But I'll just leave a few other things that might have happened throughout this race for others. It was not an incident-filled race apart from that final lap. Here's Jason Dembski. Not quite space on the inside. On lap 3, the manager Red Nanovic had a few incidents on the track. He ended up falling way back, including one more near the very end of the race. This might have been a self-inflicted one on lap 3. That's the brakes for you right there. That's me on every turn sometimes in these cars, you know. Sometimes you give me a hard braking zone here and it just does not work. I think he might do a similar thing here on lap 2. It just wasn't a great day. We'll catch the incident on lap 1 with Spencer and Adams as well. And if no one wants to talk, that's okay. Oh, that's some turn 1 nonsense into Sebring. That's usually how it goes. And I think Nathaniel Bell ate a meatball flag as well. I'm trying to work out where. This was Bell and Dembski. I'm just trying to distract you all. Yeah, I'm just distracting you all from whatever was going on. Oh no, that's Nathaniel Bell caught up in the midst of that. This is what we call the world's greatest distraction from more pressing issues. But trust me, in my position, you would do the same. So you would do the same in a similar situation. So we'll mark it off like that. You would definitely just try and act like what you just saw didn't happen. But it was a dramatic race, and it did build up all the way to the end, as many of these races do. I'm not going to wait forever. I don't see anyone quite lining up for an interview. So unless someone's going to dive into that booth at the last minute, I don't think I will. I don't think I will poke bears on the track. And there were some other good battles out there as well. I very, very much enjoyed the one with Jason Chen down there at the back. Actually, that's one more replay we can get. Of course it is. What lap was that? I saved a bookmark of it, I'm sure. Ian Anderson from the chopper. Then we're done. We're done with the day. We can go home. And I can mute the Discord for the next 48 hours. And that's fine. Here's Ian Anderson going into turn 1. Oh, it's just a self-slip. I actually thought there was contact in there. There isn't at all. That marks the end.
I think the bumps road just got him sideways.
That marks the end of that week. We're here at Okayama, same time next time. That's always my favourite 3i racing track. Well, Charlotte Roval used to be. But now, Okayama takes the crown, I think. Very tight technical, one big long straight. It's going to have a character quite similar to this one, I think.
Yeah, Okayama, that's going to be a very fun race to look forward to. Bit of a drafter, still a lot of technicality that you have to go through in that racetrack. And one of those that got a pretty good art refresh a couple of seasons ago. That's a track that many, many people have driven God knows how many laps on. That was actually the track that I did my first ever test broadcast on all the way back in, God, I think that was probably February of 2023, so time flies when you're having fun. But Okayama's a really fun track. These cars always put on a good show, so I'm looking forward to seeing that race at Okayama and what sort of drama that's going to go on there in Japan in 1 week's time.
And as ever on the channel, plenty more racing to catch, including a special event where you're going to see plenty more wrecks. Where that comes from, trust me, the FF1600 Festival is never a place where scrap metal isn't collected. It's all on Maconi Entertainment. Subscribe, follow, do all the great things. We'll be back next week for more. Thank you very much, Frederick Surley and FILMBIL.NO and whatever's left of that car in the tyre barrier for supporting the series this season. And wish you a very, very good week ahead. I think it all. Hey, I'm not clear. I'm clear now.